What are we gonna be able to talk about this time?
We'll try to keep it within the realm of acceptability. So this is technically, for those of you counting, this is actually the sixth time I'm on, but actually the fifth because when we recorded last month, it was it was pretty spicy. And I remember over the weekend I thought about it and I texted G on Monday and I'm like, I don't know if this is really a good idea being a public figure, like being a teacher, like would you mind re-recording it? And G's like, okay, fine, And then ironically, what last week?
Oh yeah, well yeah,
yeah. So it's just kind of funny, like
yeah, we can get into that in just a second. Let me do this intro real quick. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another special edition to the Rated G podcast. I'm your host, G. Terado. For those of you who have been here before, welcome back and thank you for your continued support. And for everyone else who is new here, welcome to the show. Here on the podcast, I like to sit down with fellow artists and creatives, and we basically talk shop. We talk about other aspects in life, and while doing so, we try to help promote each other's work. So if you enjoy this type of content, you enjoy discovering new artists, especially local artists, be sure to check out the links down below where you'll find all our social media and online shops. And so don't be afraid to hit that follow, subscribe button, ring the notification bell. That way you can keep up with all the current uploads, especially if you are watching on YouTube, because I do post other content on the channel. And feel free to leave comments to help out with the algorithm. That way we can get the podcast to continue to grow. And yeah, let's get after it. Joining me for technically his sixth time, but this is basically his fifth official time on record.
The lost episode, yeah.
But dear friend, fellow artist, art teacher, educator, Nick Mockoviak. Yes. All right. So I should probably. All right. Well, basically did a cold open and ending with that note on the whole Facebook situation. So I think I basically got hacked my Instagram because even the first notification I ever got was a message on the Messenger app, but on my business page saying that someone or just saying that I was it was getting deactivated. And then trying to sign on, I sent a report and, just trying to figure out what's going on, why is this happening? Supposedly there's a linked account, linked to my Instagram page that wasn't following the guidelines. And I mean, the name is just it looks like a fake account's name. It's got a bunch of random, it's got a name in there and then a bunch of random letters and numbers. That's usually a dead giveaway. But it was just odd because I couldn't find it wherever you would do the whole linking accounts, in the settings. There wasn't, that name wasn't popping up anywhere I would search. So I don't know. I guess I might have to just hit up Meta and just it's a lot of digging, but so that's all I could say. I mean, it might still be correlated with stuff I've posted, I guess from the personal G Terado Instagram. I don't know if it's talking about that or just plainly someone hacked in and linked to my Instagram and then was doing some BS. And that resulted, but it's just funny because everything just, I don't know, you want to call it coincidences, but the timing was pretty impeccable. So, I mean, people that do follow me or were following me on Facebook, my personal page, they could probably do the math. I told my one friend about it, and she's like, kind of like you, how dare you think for yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how dare you go how dare you go against the narrative, you know?
So like it does feel like that, just based on the timing. But if like this, like I have screenshots of like, what would the responses were when I would try to sign on and see like what happened, who,
Mhm.
But so we'll see, because I don't know, like I don't know if this is permanent. I feel like if it was permanent, I wouldn't be able to manage my business page through the business suite app. Like it's weird. Like I don't like the way like Facebook links their main account to their business or art account, but
Mhm.
I'm limited to what I can do on my Facebook Art of G Terado page. Uh, I figured if
Interesting.
that's still operational, then it's not like the whole, my account isn't completely gone. So it might, I don't know. I'm just gonna wait out 30 days, see if I'm able to get back on, and I'll just go from there. Like I'm trying not to stress too much about it because
No.
it's been kind of nice like not having the distraction, but the way my mind is like trying to fill those gaps of like I could be death scrolling. So like instead of death scrolling on Facebook, my mind is just like reeling all these like thoughts and ideas and just it starts scrambling. It's like, oh, I gotta distract myself with just like more work or just try to like calm my mind down. So yeah, that's the
Mm.
whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's pretty funny.
Yeah, just the timing of it was impeccable.
Yeah, it was. And I'm not
And
gonna lie, dude. I was saying to Nicole, I'm like, this is a psyop. Yeah.
yeah, like when I was reading that text, I'm like, oh, I got G. I got him. I got him. I mean, but that's like the sad thing though is like we talked about this actually last month when we had the Lost show. You're not allowed to have like nuanced conversations about topics that might be controversial or very spirited or whatever. Like we so ironically work in this very binary of if you're on team A, then you are opposed against team B, like 100%. There's no in between. There's no give and take. And like that to me is just it's not how people are. Like we aren't, you know, ironically not like this, but kind of just pure black and white system of operations. Like we have like nuances and shades of gray. It's not like if, for example, if you are a progressive, you are going to have some conservative thoughts on some topics. And likewise, if you're conservative, you're going to have some liberal progressive takes on things. But the way that it's been set up by, you know, social media, uh, like legacy media, is like you have to be either on this team or that team, and that's it. Like there's no crossing over. There's no back and forth. It's just fucking screaming at each other, and it doesn't get anything accomplished. You know, like you could still have your stances. Like you could be, for example, pro-life or pro-choice, or you could be pro-Israel, pro-Palestine, whatever. Like you could have, like you could have your foot in the ground and whatever. But you need to like have these kind of back and forth, reasonable conversations, which unfortunately you're just not going to get these days. Like you're not going to have any like real in-depth discussions, about should kids get surgery to affirm their gender identity or whatever. You're not going to have like really like mature conversations about it. It's going to be a de-evolution of just conversations and shouting at each other and name calling, and it's just not healthy or conducive. Now, if you put your tinfoil hat on, I would say this is all by design and for a reason, but that's just the tinfoil hat side of me coming
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
But
I think it's funny that as soon as any like social media guidelines are crossed, they'll hit you with those flags. But it's like, it's like if you do have machines, like whatever, like it's not even human that's going through all this stuff, right? The comments and
Hmm.
the content. But it's like, all right, but why can't you have like this, like operate as efficiently as like, getting rid of spam accounts. Like that's the thing that I
Yeah.
find like astonishing is that, though if you're leaving a comment and like you throw in the word bitch in there, but it thinks you're using it in a derogatory way, and it's like, no, like, like whatever, right? You just if they don't get the context of thinking you're being mean,
Hmm.
it's like, why can't like just the same effort be put on like, just I don't want to have to find myself sitting down for 10 minutes, like blocking, X amount of fake accounts that are hitting me
Hmm.
up or just like whatever. Like, it's just, I feel like there's such an imbalance there with the crackdown on, breaking social guidelines and the crackdown on, robot or like hacker accounts. It's just like, come on, come
Well,
on.
also the social guidelines that's constructed now, because that's going to change in 2 years.
Yeah.
It's what's acceptable now. I mean, could you imagine if we had social media in the fucking 90s?
Oh.
Oh my God. Uh, I mean, now younger children, I'm just going to say this now. This might be the a trigger warning, whatever, but I mean, the words we used to call each other,
Oh,
and
we did.
I'm trying to be good about this now,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, just the amount of shit talking we would do, on the regular, you know, like it would not be uncommon for someone to call someone a maggot, replace that first consonant with another letter.
Um,
Okay,
yeah, like locker room talk is.
locker room talk, like that was just out there, like because you have to understand, like in the '90s, especially like the mid to late '90s, was such a direct reaction to what was like the '80s. The '80s was like you know the the PMRC, the rise of like children's rights and just coming from this more conservative kind of upbringing, to where in the early '90s everything was inclusive. Like it was inclusive 30 years ago, believe it or not. Like I
It
mean, just
just
look at
wasn't
Captain.
in your face. That's
Well,
the
Captain Planet was kind of in your face. You know,
okay. Yeah,
right, right. It's like you have like it's like here's the white kid, the black kid, the brown girl, the kid,
yeah.
the kid in the kid in the wheelchair, the guy with a mullet. Like like it was, but it was in the guise of a TV show, right? So it was very politically correct. Especially in the early '90s, everything was very PC. In the mid to late '90s, kind of turned everything on its ass and became almost as lewd and as crude as possible on purpose.
Mhm.
I remember like when South Park first came out, I was in seventh grade and it was 1997. I remember watching this going like, this is my shit. Like cartoons were like cursing and like kids dying. It was like, it also just, but it wasn't like the cartoons I'd watch as a kid, like it wasn't like G.I. Joe or Masters of the Universe or Transformers or, Ghostbusters or whatever. Like this is even like more cruder than Beavis and Butthead and Ren and Stimpy. This is like Eon Flux, kind of, but this became more just like, oh, like they're just cursing at each other and like calling each other like, you know, like racial slurs and homophobic slurs, and it was just so the antithesis of what was going on at the time, and people gravitated towards it. Everything became extreme, you know, and everything became so in your face and so fuck you to the establishment, you know. And I can only imagine if we had like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and um, what's that stupid app everyone likes, TikTok. Like imagine all that shit, in the '90s.
Yeah.
I don't know if kids would survive.
Yeah, I don't know. I
I,
mean,
I,
we had AOL. That was like that was the closest thing. AOL, and in the
Oh,
end.
remember, yeah, AIM,
Yeah,
Messenger.
exactly.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, no, I'm talking just like, I mean, kids think they should talk each other, which they do, but I mean, like, their shit talking now is just how we used to just address each other.
Yeah.
You know, it wouldn't be out of place for people of different ethnicities to come in and just greet each other with different racial derogatives and slurs.
Yeah.
But that's how it was. That was no big deal, but it was just like that's how you were greeted, and you went out and like did like you played like kill the man with a ball or King of
Yeah.
the Hill, or you'd watch your wrestling pay-per-views, or like you'd go and like marvel like how amazing PlayStation 1 was,
Hmm.
1995. you know like it was just a different time back then. And
Yeah. It's just like you don't have like, you don't have a potential hundreds to thousands of eyes like watching you experience whatever. Like if
oh
you're
god, we would have been canceled in like 1998. You kidding me?
well, that's what I mean. Like it's just yeah, it's just like not yeah, everything that was going on back then, like just wasn't broadcasted.
Right. And I feel like too, maybe I'm looking through nostalgia, and being almost 40, kind of looking at things a little differently. But I feel like we were more accepting of like people of different backgrounds.
Yeah, I would
And
think.
we were more accepting of like, yes, like you always had like the like one or two like gay or lesbian kids in your grade or whatever. And you had a couple of dickheads would, make fun of him. We are probably one of the dickheads, in that group too. But it wasn't like this malice, at least back then. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, oh gee, he's a little flamboyant. Okay, and you kind of just went about your day.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like we were a lot more tolerant of things, which is kind of ironic how intolerant we are of things now. And again, that might be nostalgia, you
Mhm.
know, but I do feel that we were, like back then, it wasn't like this big deal of like having this group of friends and everybody was all different backgrounds. You had like black kids, white kids, Hispanics, Indians, Asians, everyone intermingled, and it wasn't like this big fucking deal. It's just like, oh, this is your group of friends you grew up with.
Yeah.
And you all like, fucking, you know, a type of music or TV show or toys or whatever. Like you just kind of banded together over that stuff.
Yeah.
We were like more the blind eye to it, because we were again raised to be colorblind and to be accepting of people of their character, right? And now it's like, no, you can't accept people on their character. You have to base them on just the facade, on like what you see.
Hmm.
So in a way, we've gone backwards, but I think it's also by design. But it's just the tinfoil hat on right now.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it just sucks like seeing the society kind of go backwards in that like
And again, I'm not saying like that you should call like again like the things that we used to call each other. I'm not saying that you should call someone, like, and again, I'm just going to use this once because last time was a little different, like to use like a word like to call someone like retarded or fat. That was very common. I'm not advocating for that. I'm not saying you should go back to using that kind of vernacular,
yeah.
you know, but we were more quick to embrace people. Like we were quicker to accept people. It's like, oh, you got a Jurassic Park shirt on? I have a Gigan shirt on. Oh, cool. You like dinosaurs and monsters? Oh, like, oh, you like Godzilla? Oh, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, yeah. Like, oh, do you watch Ultraman and Power Rangers? And other like, you would find common ground with people. It didn't matter what people looked like. It was like, oh, that's a cool shirt. I like that. Oh, I see that you're drawing. Oh, that's awesome. Or like, hey, you have this like awesome toy you brought in. Like, and again, I understand too. Like, that was 30 years ago. The world's very different
Yeah,
than
well just
than it was.
I think just things happen so organically back then, everything is like again, like everything you do is you're either doing that sort of bond through content, sharing It's like it's just not organic way of communicating. Like you do like the way they do that now is just by sending each other links to funny videos and reels and memes and
Mhm.
it's never like just simply communicated, you know. And I think
Yeah,
same thing goes with like when you have disagreements, like just like everything being done online where you have like that sort of um like that buffer zone like that shit like kind of fucks up the rhythm of like you trying to connect with somebody. um I'm
yeah,
saying it it's like really simplified how I'm saying it, but that's kind of, I mean, that's just what I think it is too. Like again, back then everything was like very personable, very organic. You did it either
because it was a lot of face to
yeah,
face. It was in
FaceTime
person.
or just like even on the phone, right? Because then you hear the
Hmm.
context, you hear like if I'm gonna say something heavy, like you hear me take a deep breath, you hear all that,
Hmm.
right? So like you still get all that as opposed to if I'm gonna say something that a loaded thing, it's like, all right, there's those three dots, like, geez, really typing up something. It just like it just fucks with your psyche and your subconscious, and just everything is just downloaded to our brains instead of like just experiencing it. I think the way we experience things is kind of how is just what's resulting the way the newer generation are like
Right.
everything.
Well, it's a byproduct of technology.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, yeah. I mean, I remember like when I was a kid, watching Monday Night Raw and having my friend who literally lived like a block over from me would call me on the phone at 9 o'clock at night. We'd be on the phone for like 2 hours, like basically like if you were on Twitter, like going back and forth of like, oh
yeah.
my God, you see what Steve Austin did? All The
Live
Rock did this and
tweeting, live
right.
post.
But we were on the phone with each other doing
Yeah,
this, you know. And then the next day, at the bus stop and at school, like you have like that, a chatter like, oh my God, it just oh, Steve Austin drove a Zamboni into the ring and hit McMahon with a stunner and poured beer over him, blah blah blah. And The Rock fucking talked about poontang pie and da, 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 da. Like it was just, like you had that kind of immediate visceral reaction, because then like even like with the technology of like, okay, like watching TV, for example, you can go on to any streaming service, Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu, Paramount, whatever, and shit's just there and you binge it and then it's out of your collective for, the next until the next time that show comes back on, which might be a year or two or whatever. Whereas if you were watching something on TV, you know, you'd have to wait a whole week, to come back and be like, oh, well, what are they gonna do next week? Like, oh my God. Like I remember like watching Smallville when it first came on the
mm.
WB, which I know like people are laughing, but shut the fuck up.
Oh
So um
shit.
which actually the Smallville kind of was like one of the first things that turned me off to like long-term superhero storytelling, because it went on for 10 years and then was like Stockholm syndrome after like season 6.
Mm.
As it's like, all right, you have this love triangle between Lana, Lois, and Clark, and yes, they don't want Clark to be Superman, so he has to be still Clark Kent, and he can't really fly. But it's like Todd Williams is like 40 years old and balding. Like, just let him be Superman now, you
Yeah.
know, you know, and like every season they would give you like the little nuggets, like one episode, like you're like, oh my God, it's the fucking Justice Society, or like they give you like that little bit of of I'm gonna use some not PC, like you get a little bulge, like oh, and then like the next week it's like, oh, you know it's a love triangle again, like, but then like they'll throw in like a legacy episode and whatever, and then it ended and you're like, oh, this is it. And like after that, like I had no desire, like after 10 years of watching Smallville, I'm like, I don't want to watch Green Arrow or The Flash or Supergirl or Legion of Legends of Tomorrow or Legion superheroes or anything. I was like, I'm done. So,
Kind of how I
and
feel with Marvel now. Is like I
oh,
just
yeah, yeah. Let's talk about Marvel because I was having this discussion too. So, go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh no, it's just that I don't have like any desire or excitement to catch up on any of the shows that I missed out on
No.
to stay in the link with the MCU. Like I'm just kind of over it. Um,
Well, I think the problem with the MCU, they ran into the same issue that Marvel Comics ironically did in the '90s. Where you're talking the early '90s, comic book issues were selling in like the millions per month. If a book was selling like 200,000 copies, it got canceled. Like that's how like ruthless the comic book industry was, and also how healthy it was. Where like books were selling, but at the same time, people were buying the books and for on the speculation market. Like the Death of Superman, for example, '93. That was artificially inflated with the sales because people thought they were gonna like pay off their mortgages with that comic book. It's like, no, the comic book's worth about $2.50. You know, what started to happen with the MCU is it never went away. After Endgame, they should have taken at least 3 years off.
mm,
Just nothing. No TV shows,
right.
no shorts, no movies, nothing.
It
Just
just
take 3 years off, like re-rack, reshuffle the deck, and plan what you want to do. Because you felt when you watched that first, 10 years of the MCU, the first three phases, you knew there was the, no pun intended, the end game to it all. You knew there was an overarching plan. You could watch each movie, it would progress the overall story of the MCU with Thanos and the Infinity Stones. It would also advance the story of that particular character, but you didn't have to watch every single movie to understand what was happening with the big Avengers movies,
mm,
right? Like I didn't watch the Ant-Man movies, I didn't watch the Spider-Man movies, but I still understood what was going on.
yeah.
You know, it was like you were rewarded if you watched all of them because if they made some reference in like fucking Ant-Man 2 or whatever, and you're like, and they had a recall to that and like, Infinity War, you're like, oh, I understand that reference. Like I get that. Like that's from Ant-Man 2. Whereas now, especially with Disney Plus and like all these TV shows that don't mean jack shit, in the movies that are even worse, they're directionless.
Mm.
There's no overarching theme. There's no real stakes at it, and it feels like homework now. Like
Yeah, it does.
like I told my mom, and like my mom's a big fan of the MCU. She doesn't like comic books, but she loves watching all the comic movies.
Yeah.
Like we were actually watching Black Adam the other day. Ugh, but whatever. She enjoyed it. Um,
Yeah.
but like what I was getting at is like in the '90s, the comic book bubble bursted because what was happening was not only said the speculate, the speculators, market buying up all the books and whatever. The comic book series themselves became so interlinked and interconnected that you had to read everything to understand what was going on in a single book.
Mm.
So, like, if you were reading the X-Men, right, you would also have to read X-Force, and then you would also have to read like Thunderbolts, and then you would also have to read, Uncanny Avengers or Uncanny X-Men to understand what was going on in X-Men. Like it became too convoluted because the stories would just kind of jump between book to book. Where like if you're reading X-Men issues, like let's say like 16 to 20, you would have to also have to read like X-Force issues 247, 255, and 262. It became homework. It was too much. People were like, "Fuck this, I'm out. I'm done." The MCU feels the same way. Like when my mom went to watch Doctor Strange 2, I told her, I'm like, this is not a sequel to Doctor Strange. This is a sequel to WandaVision. She was like, what the fuck is WandaVision? Like, it's a show on Disney Plus. Like, you got to watch it. My mom, she said, I had to watch this fucking thing like 3 times to understand that. I still don't get it. But I'm like, yeah, it's not a Doctor Strange movie. It's a WandaVision sequel with a cameo from Doctor Strange. So it's like you have to watch everything to understand everything. And that's a big turnoff to people. It's like they don't have to, like, especially with these TV shows, like with like 7, 8, 10 episodes, and each episode's like 20 to 30, 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
A lot of fucking work.
Yeah. Star
You know,
Wars
it's
is like that too. Like I don't feel the
right,
desire to watch those shows either.
right. And especially when you take a concept of like it's basically a movie, but you stretch it out, instead of 2 hours, now you've made it 6 hours. And then you gotta fill 4 hours of bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, and like if you want to throw in the woke bullshit, yeah, I could throw it in there too. But like to me, it's more there's no clear vision. Everything just seems like homework. It just seems like filler. There's no real direction. There's no like real big bad or like real big threat that's kind of been teased. I know like Kang the Conqueror was supposed to be the big thing, but then Jonathan Majors got himself in trouble, so now
Yeah.
he's gone. Because now they have the multiverse, they can just pull a Kang from another universe and boom, now it's like
Yeah.
it's like with Thanos, they teased him. Like they teased Thanos. Like it wasn't just like, well, here he is. Like here's Grimace with a helmet and muscles. Like they kind of, oh, there he is. Oh, there's a little bit of his face. Oh, now we see him. Oh, now we see his body. Like now you might see him in like a proper movie in like a frame or two. Then that's it.
Mm.
You know, it was thought out. It was planned. Now it just seems like they're like, oh fuck, we kind of blew our load here. I don't know what to do. And I was really thinking with WandaVision, like they were going to bring in Mephisto, who's like the devil in Marvel terms,
Mm.
and they never did. I'm like, well, okay, that sucks. Because like I don't know, like you have like Galactus, like there's like other things you can do. Like you can't go back to Thanos again, but there had to be some kind of thought to what was being done. It just seemed like there wasn't any thought to like the overall story. You know, they just seemed more like kind of like anthology stories that then try to tie together. It's like either like either do anthologies or have everything connected together. You can't be this kind of like back and forth where it's like sometimes it counts and sometimes it doesn't. You know, so that's my kind of take on the MCU. Where like they needed a break, they didn't take a break, and people are just they're burnt out and tired from it. Because even like the most staunchest MCU shows are like, I'm fucking tired of this. I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, who's excited for the Marvels? Nobody.
Yeah. I thought that was gonna be a show, but I guess it's a movie or
Well, there was a Miss Marvel TV show on Disney Plus,
right.
and this is like sort of a continuation of that and the Captain Marvel movie from 2018 or
Got it.
2019, whenever that came out.
Yeah.
It's like, but no one cares.
Yeah. Like I don't like I have no
No,
interest.
no, I have no interest either. Like the only interest I have is Werewolf by Night. That's it. They have a colorized version that came out last week of the same show that came out last year.
Yeah, I noticed. I'm like, really, guys?
But
Like,
honestly, I'll fucking watch it. Like, dude, I love like the Marvel horror
it's
stuff.
still cool, but I'm like, I
But
don't
like,
know. Like, it would have been cool to have see like another project, like
you know,
that.
you know what? I'm fine with it because at least Werewolf by Night was cool.
Yeah.
Like it was like this is like their Hammer version with like the colors being more like type like color and like I can get behind that. You
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
but like I'm not excited about really anything else like Thunderbolts or Dark Avengers or Secret Invasion or whatever. Like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah. I'm just curious. I mean, yeah, I'll just be curious enough to just see like where it's leading to as opposed to actually investing in it and going out to see it, stuff like that. Like that's probably a slim chance unless I don't know. Like I haven't been like excited about anything in particular. If anything, Deadpool 3, whenever that actually happens, you know, just out of curiosity too, to see like how they utilize Wolverine again.
Hmm.
But yeah, like I just like don't. Yeah, I'm just not excited. Like I feel like yeah, I guess Endgame was like the last movie I was legitimately excited about just to see how everything turns out. And now it's just
Right, because everything was an event.
yeah,
Because you had like three to four movies a year, but each movie felt like a big event because it was
yeah,
spaced out, and it wasn't always like the same thing. Like there was like different, like Captain America, uh, like Winter Soldier was like a espionage movie, and you would have like Guardians of the Galaxy was like a fucking like goof troop romp tromp kind of thing, you know, and you would have these different movies that had different tones to it, but would also still tie into the overall narrative.
yeah.
It
Guardians
felt
3 was hard for me to watch.
I didn't. I said like I haven't watched it. Like to
Yeah.
me, like Black Widow, that was like when I saw it, I'm like I'm done. It was such the wrong movie, the wrong story. Like nobody gave a fuck about the Natasha's sister that they had to bring in. Like this, like if you were gonna make a Black Widow movie with a character that's already dead, the movie that people wanted to see, was basically like her redemption story, you know, of what happened in Budapest, because that was all talked about and hyped about for over how many fucking movies? Budapest, 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 and they did nothing with it. It was like a 5 minute blip. Like that should have been the whole movie with her and Hawkeye and whatever.
Yeah. You
That
would at
like
least expect to see Hawkeye in it since they had a history, but they kind of
right, like show like yeah, her like being like this fucking like ruthless assassin and killer and whatever, and like what made her change her mind and change her heart. Like that's what the movie people wanted to see. Not oh yeah, we're gonna replace this Black Widow with another Black Widow. Stupid. And then Doctor Strange too. I'm like, I'm tapping out. I'm done.
yeah.
I gave
Yeah,
up.
I had hopes for that one too, but yeah, that was another letdown.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I can't blame like the actors. They're doing, they're trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, and it still stank. It still stank at the end. So
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's so funny because like going back to Facebook, be, because I'm not on there, I do feel out of the loop on in terms of like what's happening in entertainment. Because that was, I hate to say it, but that was a way of like not news source, but that was where I would kind of hear like what's going on, even like
mhm.
locally and stuff. So I do feel like again saying like I'm not as distracted, but part of that is like not knowing like what's actually going on out there. I'm
I
very much in
mean,
my own world, or I'm getting lost on YouTube. So I have been like developing habits on YouTube, like in terms of what I'm like what rabbit holes I'm going following.
oh yeah, the YouTube rabbit hole. Let me tell you, man,
It's not as it's not as toxic as it can be. It's just
it's a time sucker though.
yeah, it is, but yeah, I'm just I'm getting a little better at it. It just looks like I'm doing like this online like uh creative academy, and a lot of it is making content to bring in more audience members to engage with and stuff. So a lot of my focus is very much being social media active and trying to just like make content to connect with people.
Hmm.
So that is draining. And yeah, when you're doing stuff like that, especially like editing in your phone, like you're just prone to distraction. But yeah, YouTube is like the thing I kind of like get news or anything. But
yeah, the YouTube rabbit holes, man, they're fun, but I mean,
yeah, they are a time sucker. But like it's the reels, and the shorts in that in on that platform. It's like once like I've been pretty good staying away, or at least having a very short, limited time going through shorts or reels, because I know that's the one that gets you.
see, I don't even bother with them. I might watch like one or two and like, all right, I'm done. Like,
No, that's good if as long as you maintain that. Yeah.
but
But
the problem is that I spend like 4 hours just going like watching like like 40-minute videos. It's like, oh my god.
well,
Like
yeah, it's either
I
you're
should be doing
getting
a drawing right now, or like I'll start like, all right, let's start my drawing, and it's like, oh, 9/11 was an inside job, and like you start, it's like, oh fuck, you're just watching all these videos, and
uh,
it's like, oh, like I gotta watch this kind of argument now, and I gotta watch this thing, and I gotta watch that thing, and next thing you know, you're like, well, I'm not getting anything done yet again,
yeah.
so it,
My my thing is falling into like just watching video after video, like debates with like Matt Walsh or was it Charlie Kirk and
Charlie Kirk, yeah, yeah.
Michael Knowles, like watching them kind of like
Yeah,
debate
yeah.
debate, we left the lefties and like super
Mm-hmm.
liberals and all that. But it's just yeah, that I just find those exchanges entertaining. But they're I find them educational too. But it's just yeah, when it's like in the shorts or the reels, like that's Instagram reels. I actually don't get lost in. It's just the YouTube shorts right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of like learned my lesson when I was still using TikTok 3 years ago. Like that's when I was like really fucking death scrolling, and like there were some positives out of it that I really try to like always remember. But that was when I was like, man, this is bad. And at least if I'm watching more long form content on YouTube, like I just got that playing in the background and I can multitask. Like I'm at least giving my attention to like something that's potentially 10 minutes long or to like a whole podcast length or whatnot. But I try to make sure whatever I'm stuck on is at least beneficial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I try doing the same thing, but all the time it's just like, well, I'm gonna just watch this nonsense video, and you're like, all right, I'm done. And then like 3 hours later, you're like, fuck, you know.
I try to make it a habit of like, well, my thing is now, especially if I'm gonna try to work on some stuff, is like I just throw on like my thing is watching Saturday morning cartoons from like the early 90s, and I just put on like a 5 hour video. Just it'll play all the shows that day with the commercials and shit. So it's almost like just listening to TV back in the day in the background
Mm,
while I'm working.
that's
But
not bad.
it's not it's sometimes I just zone out too. Like it kind of helps get the job done. But then it does spark like ideas. I'm like, oh shit, I should maybe do a biker mice from Mars piece or something. Maybe somebody might be into that. Like that's the only sort of dilemma that I come across is like it inspires me to want to work on some throwbacks. Because the more I do shows here and some people see some of the stuff I have, they're like, oh shit. And I'm like, yeah, man. And it makes me just
Mm-hmm.
want to do more like old school stuff. It's funny because when I look at my dashboard on these social media platforms, the age group is like it's our age group, maybe 10 years younger or 10 years older, but it's always like around our age group that at least like my stuff, my content is attracting.
Mm-hmm.
So but I don't know if like like if I were to do like prints of biker mice from Mars or like I want to do samurai pizza cats, but like no one's it's like the chances of someone really knowing what that is and liking it enough to want to buy a print is like pretty slim. So That's
Uh,
the is.
oh yeah, like that's always the conundrum you have is like, like like last week, um, my daughter was watching DuckTales. So I just had a song in my head. So like I'm just gonna like
So
listen to it
catchy.
on loop, and like it's kind of like like now everyone who's like watching this, you're welcome. Because now you're just gonna go on YouTube and you're gonna put on the DuckTales theme song and just have it loop around for like an hour
Dude, I
as you
watched the
work.
news show too, so
It's
I
not. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, because like my daughter, like I said, I think I was saying on the Lost episode, like she's a big fan of rubber ducks. I don't know where it came from, but she likes little rubber duckies. So like over the summer, we went to Knoebels, which is an amusement park out in Pennsylvania, and they had like the dollar claw machine. I fucking love claw machines. I'm a sucker for them. Like I go to the store, I play them. I know fucking it's just a waste of money, but I don't give a fuck. I love them. I love them to death. In fact, last year I actually won my daughter a an elephant from it. Like a legitimate, not like play till you win. Like I just kept putting in fucking money, and I got this goddamn elephant for her.
yeah.
So, but like it just because to me, like that's like what I did as a kid. Like we went to the boardwalk. Because again, growing up in New Jersey, you have to go to the fucking boardwalk, and like our boardwalk was Jenkinson's in Point Pleasant. So, and other people like Seaside, other people like LBI, a lot of people it was Wildwood or Keensburg, but I'm like, mine was Jenkinson's, Pavilion Arcade, Claw Machine. That was like summer memories right there,
Yeah.
and I just love playing these claw machines. I know they're rigged. I know I'm just wasting money, but I don't give a shit because I might win.
You just want that
So
feeling again, I think,
right,
right?
yeah, yeah. It's like you're reliving it, and it's like you get that dopamine hit, that adrenaline rush of
Yeah.
like it's like oh fuck, all right, it's like you position it, and it's like no, and then, it's like
It's almost kind of like gambling, maybe
no,
watered down.
yeah, it's basically watered down gambling for the most
Yeah.
part. But I mean, so like they had like this play till you win because like you just put in $1 and you just kept
Mm,
playing until you get like a duck or
I
whatever.
love those. Yeah.
And she loves the little rubber ducks. There's like like the ones you would get like you put in your bathtub.
Yeah.
But there's like it's a watermelon duck, and this
There's
one's
so many.
so
So
oh my
many.
god,
It's ridiculous.
oh
Whoever
and
started that they gotta be making some.
oh it's genius because let me tell you, I went on Amazon. We bought Halloween ducks because my daughter loves Halloween. It's her favorite holiday. It's Halloween, Christmas, and Easter, and she's been saying Happy Halloween since August. So this is like she's ready. So like I bought her a pack of like 24 Halloween ducks. So it's like an eyeball duck, a zombie duck, a vampire duck, ghoul duck, whatever. And she would get one every day. So you go, all right, here we go, Kenzie. Oh, what duck do you get? Oh, Frankenstein duck or whatever. So because like, oh, she likes ducks. Oh, watch DuckTales. And she's like, doesn't quite understand it, but she knows that they're ducks.
Mhm.
So I'm like watching this, and I'm like, maybe I should do some DuckTale drawings. Maybe I do like Uncle Scrooge, like Magician Dispel, and all that stuff. Because again, there's a market for that kind of stuff. It taps to the nostalgia, but you're right. Where's the market for that? And that's the one thing I feel like with artists that they don't like. Why artists don't make it because it's marketing.
Yeah.
You have to know your audience, what you're doing, what you're making, who you're selling it to. And again, I know a lot of artists don't want to think that way because we're not designed for that. We're the whatever half of the brain, left brain, right brain. I
Yeah.
fucking forget which side it is.
I think
But
it depends like I'm lefty, so I think I use my creative side is the right side of my brain.
right, yeah, whatever. So, I don't think I actually don't think it matters. Like if you're like what
Oh,
what your
okay.
dominant hand is. I just think like the left hemisphere, the right hemisphere. Like every test I ever did, I was like exactly like evened, so didn't matter. So which kind of goes along with my character. Um, but like a lot of artists just don't take the time to like plan out what they want or like make a plan of who their audience is, what they're making, what they're selling, who they're selling it to, their price points, their merchandise. I mean, like you learn by doing different shows. Like if I was doing a manga show, I would probably not do as many prints, and I would do like more like stickers, bookmarks,
Yeah.
enamel pins, things like that, like little knickknacks. Comic book shows, like prints, original artwork, comic books, ash cans, whatever. Pop culture shows, you're just kind of just doing fucking whatever is out there.
Pretty much.
But it's like having that identity for yourself and like knowing what you're selling, your product, your brand, and then pushing that. And we don't do that as artists. Like, and I'll freely admit, like I've failed so many times because I don't take this advice, even though I knew I struck gold with the Captain America print where he's punching Hitler and it's a propaganda poster. And it took me like 2 years to come up with a sequel to that. And it just never really worked. Like I did the a Red Skull as Uncle Sam, like I want you to be dead or whatever. And I did like the Wonder Woman, like yes, we can do it as like Rosie the Riveter, but it didn't have like that same feel because it came out so many years afterwards, you know,
Yeah.
or even like now, because my own work is now so diversified where like I love doing the monster stuff, but then there's also like I love doing superhero stuff or like more like comic book, I would say like aesthetic with the way the inking, the rendering, the line work. I really love doing that kind of stuff. Then there's like the macabre stuff with like the skulls and the monsters and whatever. Then there's the birds, which I don't know what it is, but I have to start doing something with these goddamn birds because I was at a show earlier this month, I'm gonna shout him out here, the Janimal. Uh,
Oh, that
yeah,
sounds familiar.
yeah, Jan. Oh, what's his last name? Jan Filipino Jan.
Yeah, I never actually met him personally.
Great guy.
I've seen him around, especially at I think it was John Paul's
Oh yeah, yeah. He was at a lot of JP shows. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Jan, the Janimal, and Mike Gracia. We all earlier this month. Jan was in town because he's in Arizona now. But he came out to visit some family. He got a table, and they hit me up on Instagram like, "Hey, we're gonna be at Clifton on Sunday. You want to come by?" I'm like, "Does a bear shit in the woods?" Like, I hadn't seen these guys in years. Especially because like we were all in the same concert together. Like we would see each other routinely.
Yeah.
You know, and they are both like, "You gotta do something with your birds, man. Your birds are so good." And It's like, all right, fucking yes, yes, fine. I'll do it with the birds. But again, like I had a comic book show. I don't know how many like guys in like Green Goblin shirts are gonna buy prints of like a red bellied woodpecker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you could probably do something like just somewhere else though.
Oh yeah. I mean, even like I've thought about for a while investing in like a good like high end printer that does like more cliche printing where like it's high quality print, like prints or like it's not using four pigments, it's using six or even up to 10 pigments to print with, but it's expensive.
Yeah. But I mean like even like displaying like whether it's displaying prints or any originals like maybe coffee shops and like you
Oh
know
yeah, I've had those offers too, and like
yeah,
they've come and gone, and it's a lot of my fault where like I kind of forget because then like things kind of get in the way, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot like to put my stuff there. But that's where like I had to like I created the other account for myself where I'm gonna post more of like the kind of like the more rocker heavy metal things that I like to draw. Because again, in my mind, if I have an actual website and you go to my like my pretend website, I think Mockoviakart.com, which doesn't exist, so please don't go to it. Um, like, and you're a fan, say, of like the superhero stuff, and you're seeing stuff of like, all right, I like his Spider-Man drawings, but why is there like stuff of like fucking like pillated woodpeckers here, and like why is there stuff of like the American goldfinch? I don't understand this.
Yeah, no,
Like
it's true. I mean,
it's like
I deal with
it's
that
like
myself.
right. That's why like that's probably been like my biggest issue for like the last 10 years of like how do you diversify your portfolio and your identity but not cause um product confusion or identity confusion, you know? Because again, like you might know me for like the more like nature watercolor stuff, right? Or if you're old school, you're like, well, I know you for doing like the superhero stuff or the monster stuff or skull stuff. And it just there are some things that like they don't mesh well together. So
Yeah.
that's why I felt like I had to create a separate brand. And it's like, okay, this brand I can do this stuff that attracts this audience.
Mm.
And with my like and then like with me, my like my government name brand or whatever, I can do like whatever because it's my own interest. So, but even like that, and I'll admit like I haven't sat down to like actually plan out like what I want to do with like what goals do I want, like what do I want to what do I want to accomplish?
Yeah, it
You
definitely
know,
takes. I mean, that's what I'm doing now
right?
with this academy is like it's all about what's your, what is like who is your person, what is your message, your story,
Mm-hmm.
your service. Like it's like figuring out all these. It's like a very much like one of the members called it soul searching almost because it really is. And that's why a lot of my shit as of late has been very like I don't know if you noticed the pattern, but that's how it's been for like the last 3 weeks now. I'm like posting something discussing my message about like I guess the two main categories of my work, tech utopia, fan art,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm always like talking about those things because like I'm trying to connect with my potential buyers and whatnot. And then sometimes I'm putting out content that gives you some insight about what it's like to be an artist. Or if I'm talking to my fellow creatives, like,
Mm-hmm.
we're sharing insights of like, yep, this is what it's like, if you know what it's like, then like if
Right,
so
very inside baseball,
yeah.
But yeah, like I saw that post before, like you were saying, like you're doing like the tech utopia, which is very dark and just very you know dystopian for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So then you have to like go to fan art, which is lighter and a lot more nostalgic and lighthearted, and then you can then return to the darkness, where you're basically questioning humanity's role in the future as we grapple with, basically annihilation of World War III on our doorstep right now.
Mhm.
AI, which is going to make everything irrelevant anyway soon because they can decide to rewrite every program they wanted to and just put us out of existence if they show, if our tech overlords decide to ever do so. So,
Yeah.
like
It's
that
hard
was
because
like,
like I'm trying to build or trying to bridge those two things. Like, why is it always this thing? And like in a way, I'm kind of like giving myself like I'm doing like self therapy. I'm like, why am I so fixated on this? So I'm doing like a lot of digging.
right.
And
But I think a lot of us do that. Like, that's why,
yeah, well, I think
like,
that's why people buy my stuff is because they kind of maybe not as particular as I am about my approach to it, but they it resonates with them. If it finds a way to connect with them,
because
and when I have the conversation, it's like there it is. Like there's proof.
there's an authenticity to what you do,
Yeah.
and I think that's that's what connects with anybody, regardless of what, even if you're doing like soul sucking, corporate bullshit, you're still putting a little bit of yourself into your work.
Yeah,
So
it's like at least like that's the least thing I could do is try to like throw my twist in there somehow. It's like yeah, like sure, Vegeta, okay, like it's just like yes, I'm trying to start throwing more of
mhm.
my creativeness and my quirkiness or whatever the thing be to make it different.
Your personality,
Yeah,
you're putting in your viewpoints and certain things. You might be using different surrogates for that, different tokens to represent that. So, but I think that's what we all do. That's why even like yesterday I did the sketchbook dump because one, I haven't posted on Instagram at all really this year. I think I might have cracked double digit postings, like, but because you look at sketchbooks from your favorite artists and you're like, oh, these are so amazing. And you're like, well, these are like the sketchbooks for show.
Mm,
The sketchbooks for go are very different.
yeah,
Like those are the ones, and that's what I posted. I'm like there's a smattering. Like there are a lot more poorly planned out pages where it's just random drawings.
or
You
just
know,
notes.
there's
Like
just no or like notes.
yeah,
Because like, and I also just approve too. Like I've been doing work, I've been drawing,
yeah,
so it's not like, all right, I'm not posting on Facebook or Instagram. It's not I mean I'm not drawing or doing anything. I am, but a lot of that stuff is just kind of it's for me, or I'm kind of like I'm passing time, or I'm bored, or I'm like I have to prove myself. But actually, I'm not an imposter, and I actually know what the fuck I'm doing.
right,
So
right.
I go back to like, oh, there's a lot of bird drawing. Like, yeah, but it's like okay, but it's like different texture renderings, or like I'm holding the pencil differently, or I'm using a different material, or I'm exploring a different technique, or I'm exploring a different medium, or I'm exploring a different style.
Right.
And some things they don't work out that well, and that's okay because in a sketchbook, that's what it's for. Because I remember when I was growing up as a kid, sketchbooks were like this like real precious commodity that every drawing had to be like perfect. And I'm pretty sure you went through the same phase too. And I think every artist worth their fucking ilk have done the same thing. Where like every drawing is so precious, and every drawing has to be immaculate and perfect. And at some point in the last 20 years, I got over that. And I'm like, fuck this noise. And like, I would actually keep, like, right here, like, this is a junk sketchbook that I call it because it's not like the nicest quality of paper. In fact, it's like generic bullshit paper. Like, these are like the gifts I get from my kids that are like, and I'm not saying like they're like bullshit presents or whatever, but like they're not moleskin sketchbooks or like Stillman and Brand or even like Canson or Stratford, like Strathmore. Like they're not high quality.
Datology.
Yeah, like they're not high quality drawing like paper. It's like shitty paper. So I'm like, okay, so I'll just do like dumbass drawings on here.
Right.
Some of them it's like, well, that one looks nice. I'm like, yeah, sure. And then it's just like this random fucking thing. I don't know why there's an ear here. I have no idea. You know,
Yeah. It's funny.
it's
When I saw your post, it reminded me because like it reminded me that how at one point, yeah, I think earlier this year I did a couple of like sketchbook tours and I did like a quick reel going through all the pages. But you're right. I did, I myself have gone through that phase of like, I think it was when I was doing portraits like almost every day. Like every portrait had to be just quality portraits. Like, I mean, sure, there'd be some roughness to it, but like they had to be good. They couldn't just be like doodles. They had
right. Like, look, here's a
completed
doodle.
portraits.
Like,
Yeah,
what the fuck is this? What the
right.
fuck is this? And like, so like, I would have like like the junk sketchbook for like, yeah, like if I'm like watching YouTube, tutorial like channels of like I'll do some like random bullshit sketches, but then I have like the nicer sketchbooks that like, all right, I might spend a little bit more time on.
Mm-hmm.
But I also realize too, like I think we get too precious about a lot of that about this stuff because like you spend $50 on a sketchbook because it has like high end paper in it and it's there's some gimmick and gizmo and gadget to it. You're like, oh my god, I have to make everything so good. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna buy like the most expensive sketchbook and do like the shittiest drawings in it with like the worst material, you know, because you have to get over that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, there's like a
time,
little ego in there, right? It's
right? And we all have egos. Like we're artists. Like we have this gigantic ego, whether we want to admit it or not. Like we think we're gods. Like we create something out of nothing. We pull from the ether and spring into existence whatever is in our mind, from our hands, whether we're sculpting or drawing or painting. So we have that. We have a little bit of a god complex. I think it's part and parcel for the job. But we get so precious about like, oh my god, I spent $35 on like the sketchbook, and it has like, the paper's been milled in France. It's the paper's it's 300-pound paper. It's 175 years old, and it was grinded by stone. Like, who gives a fuck? Just draw a penis on it and just move on with your life. Like like just vomit on the paper, put fucking stickers on, and connect them together. Like, who gives a shit? Like, we get so precious, and like I think we invest sometimes the wrong energy into the wrong things. Look,
oh
we
yeah.
care about the little things.
Oh yeah.
It's like, who
Absolutely.
cares? Like my actual sketchbooks too. Like what I posted the other day, I'm like, yeah, like there are plenty of pages where it's just like me just doing this. It's
Yeah.
just scribbles and lines.
Yeah, there's yeah, we're just like afraid to like fail at something or just like not work up to our expectation or our standard, right? It's like I know I'm better than this, but
Well, it's
to be able to
it's a
allow yourself to just like fuck around, like I don't know,
oh yeah,
like
yeah, the
hard
imposter
to do
syndrome.
that. Yeah.
Like we all have imposter syndrome. Everybody, every artist worth their ilk has imposter syndrome. You know, and you just have to like work through it. And there's no magic,
Yes.
no magic spell or magic bullet that can cure you of like of inspiration, because we always wait for inspiration to hit us
Motivation.
or motivation. And it's like, you know what, it doesn't work that way.
You just reminded me. I mean I wish I could remember the damn quote, but there's a great quote by Chuck Close about that. It's like I'm sure I'm gonna butcher it, but it's a very short one. It's like, the real artists. Ah, fuck. It's like real artists just show up and do the
But
thing.
yeah, you just have to do the fucking work. That's what it
Yeah,
comes down
that's
to. You just
pretty
have to do
much
the
it.
fucking work.
Yes, it's just that pretty
Like there's a book I have on my shelf somewhere, which you can't see, but the title of the book is called "Do the Fucking Work."
much. Yeah, nice.
And it deals with creativeness, because like, and I am guilty of it.
Yeah,
Okay, where you kind of wait for motivation and inspiration to kind of like drive your will to do what you want, and it's like it's not how it works. Like you just have to just grind it out, and sometimes you're grinding out 5 days, you know, tired because your kids are keeping you up in the middle of the night. You had a shitty day at work. Your dinner's cold, and like whatever things are there. Like you got into a fender bender, or you got to pay for a dental bill. You got a foreclosure thing in the mail. It's like there's all these different things, right?
yeah.
But you just have to grind at it. Whether you're doing drawing, painting, sculpting, anything creative, it demands your time. It demands 100% from you.
Yeah,
right?
I agree with
And
that.
you just have to grind at it. Like there's no better inspiration than perspiration,
Mm.
right? You just have to just fucking grind it out, and eventually things click together, you
Yeah,
know.
and you can
And
apply
that's
it to almost anything too.
oh yeah, of course, it applies to anything too, like to health and to anything skill based, whether it's
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like you have to put in the work, you have to show up, you know, and you have to be ready to go. And then sometimes you go and you suck. That's fine. You're allowed to suck. Sketchbooks, that's what they're for. So
Mhm.
we have erasers on the end of pencils. Like you're allowed to fuck up and make mistakes. Like we, especially now with like social media, where everyone posting like their most immaculate, pristine artworks. It's like I can look at something and go, "You spent hundreds of hours doing this fucking thing,"
Yeah.
you know, into a normie. That might seem like, oh, it took them like 15 minutes or whatever. I'm like, no, it probably took them about 170 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
It took them months to do. And they gave up a lot. They gave up like social lives. They gave up birthday parties and going out and dates, and they gave up seeing their parents and whatever to get that done.
Voices. Yeah.
So that you can go and click on a heart on a social media app, you know, and then say I want that as a tattoo, and you don't mean it.
Yeah. It's funny. I had this kind of like a similar conversation. Not so much like a conversation over it, but I had a guest on recently and they were talking about like I don't know how it came up, but they were saying about how I guess aspiring artists they may be coming discouraged because they're not able to accomplish like the goal, like what, like illustrating something, right? And you see the artists that you admire online and they're doing the time lapses, like they're being misled by these time lapse videos that it's easy to illustrate whatever hands, or like it's just easy to like just sit down and illustrate because you see it in this like 15 to 30-second time lapse. But it's like no, like like you're fooling yourself if you think it's that simple just because you see it in a time lapse. It basically speeds through like whatever mistakes that were made, and
Mm-hmm.
like and that's the thing, like there's just like there's such a major difference in terms of like watching something happen and then actually experiencing that thing, if that makes any sense.
Right. It's
Like
also that.
watching someone draw a hand and then as opposed to you actually trying it yourself, like very polar, could be polar opposite experiences, right? It's like
Right. You see a lot of people living vicariously through these reels of,
yes,
and then they rate themselves according to this 30-second reel that might have been like their second or third or fourth attempt at this.
that. And yeah, I mean in those time lapse videos in real time are like
Yeah.
you have that feature on your phone. So something that was, I don't know, I'll just say like an hour, fucking that shit is like, sped down to 20 seconds. Like, I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing numbers,
Right. Right.
but it's like, yeah, like you don't know, like, it could be like a 30, it could be like a, 10-minute time lapse, but that shit was like over 2 hours long in real time. It's
Right.
just like you said, people are just vicariously are experiencing these things and not really experiencing it for themselves, and then that leads them being misled by like, oh, I thought it would be like this. It's like no.
Right. And I also think too, people don't want to fail.
Exactly.
And it goes back to even kind of going back to the earlier thread about, kids and culture and society now. Well, when I was growing up, like failure was part of life. Like being rejected was part of life. You know, um,
And redemption was part of it too.
redemption was part of it too.
Yeah.
Like, but I was watching a cat go across.
Yeah,
Like, oh, I think I'm gonna
sorry.
fall over. No, that's right. I'm still waiting for like one of my kids to come in here, you know. But like kids don't have like the like defense mechanism for like failure or rejection or dejection. They don't have that. They don't have coping skills. Like I said, like my Marvel Comics rejection letters on my studio wall framed, you know, because I knew it again. I've said this before on the show, and I'll say it again. It wasn't so much that like I was proud of being rejected. I was proud that I went through the process of it. Because again, and I'm guilty of this too, where like you talk a lot of shit, but you don't follow through with it. Like I applied to Marvel. I followed through with like with my intentions. And that still has a little drive in me. That little fuck you attitude still, 20 years later.
Right.
It's like, all right, all right. I'll prove you wrong one of these days. It might take me a few decades, but I'll prove you wrong. So, but like, if you have one of these kids that got that letter now, I don't, like they'd go into like a downward spiral. So, like understanding like it's not gonna be perfect the first time you do things. You're not gonna nail things out of the park every time. Like you're gonna strike out, like you're gonna swing and miss. Like you're gonna get hit in the face with your fucking bat because you're just gonna whack yourself in the forehead. Like we're gonna slide and get out of first base or whatever analogy you want to use. Like it's part of the game.
Yep.
And what you have to do is learn how to avoid that next time. You have to learn how to get better from that experience. But we don't teach that. We just kind of, oh, it's okay. Here's your ribbon. Here's your trophy. We'll
Yeah.
fail you forward. It's okay. You can complain to whoever you want to, and you'll get your way. And that's what we've just created this culture of selfish, you know, self-aggrandizing, just self-masturbatory culture where we cut, we like celebrate mediocrity. We clap for things you're supposed to do. It's like, yay, you breathed today. Congratulations.
Yeah.
The fuck? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not, you're
Just
supposed to do that. Like do something more with it, like achieve something more, like push yourself more, like apply to different competitions and different contests. And it's okay if you fail because you know what? If there's three prizes and there's 50,000 people applying, you're going to get rejected,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, a lot of my content has been kind of, well, not a lot of it, but I am finding myself going sort towards that direction of like talking about those things and allowing yourself to accept those failures and failed attempts. Like they're great educators, is like I find myself saying a lot. Like
Yeah,
these are great lessons. Like it's not the end of the world, you know.
no,
And yeah, but it's like you said, it's not necessarily taught for, you get those participation trophies.
right. Or even like, just the satisfaction of knowing that you did something.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has to be perfect and it has to be an A+ and it has to be like memorialized and it has to be perfect, whatever.
Yeah.
That's such a illusion and dilution of what we do. Like you have to learn how to do things and learn that some things you do suck and you're going to fail at things. And no matter how good or how great you think you are, you still suck. you know
You
but
can't
you have
now.
right
All
but
right.
like you have to learn what your strengths and weaknesses are
Yeah.
and improve upon that.
Yeah, we just need like honest people too that like will keep you accountable. Like I feel like there's a lack of that. You know,
Right, because
people talk about building tribes, but it's like, yeah, a lot of these tribes I see, they're all just like catering. They just,
well, it's we talk on the Lost show. We talk about echo chambers,
yeah,
right? It's the same thing. Like you can apply it to literally anything. You know, your social political views, your economic views, your art views, your views on pop culture, your views on music, your views on food. You stay within the same thought bubble, the same echo chamber of people who agree with you. You know, and especially as an artist, that's probably the most dangerous thing you can do. Like you have to look at different things from different people, from different points of view. You have to be able to grow. You have to be able to do things that you may not agree with or things that you may not like necessarily. You know, like it's our toolbox. You learn, add to your toolbox. You can pull it out anytime you want to. Like if you want to be a comic artist, great. Do abstract paintings. Why? Because it's going to help you grow and learn how to do composition, color theory, layouts, rhythm, movement. You know, or like you're a storyteller and you're conservative, right? You want to learn what people like, what progressive and what liberal people are thinking. Why? Because it adds authenticity, depth, and richness to your story that you wouldn't have otherwise.
yeah,
Because if you're just preaching the message of the same people, it's preaching to the choir. Like everything will seem hollow. You need to have that depth. You need to have that breadth of experience. Of different voices, of just different circumstances. Like come to you and fill your like fill you, because then you become a much better artist, storyteller, person, whatever, because you have more nuances and experiences, and you have more in-depth actual real connections to things that you may not have otherwise if you just stay within your echo chamber or within your bubble. So, and again, going back to what we were saying way back in the beginning, like you can't just stay within your own little world. You have to get out there. Like you have to get different points of view in there. You don't have to agree with everything. Some people are just dicks too. It's okay. Some people are assholes. That's fine.
yeah.
But don't kill the message because of the messenger.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to get some more experience out there, like out in the city. It's just like it's hard to experience things with other people when other people don't want to. All right, this makes me sound like a fucking loser, but anyway, like it's hard to try to experience things with people when they don't want to, show up. Like you know what I mean? It's just like, and like, I'm not saying they don't have other things going on or whatever, but it's just, and maybe it's just me. Who knows? I know I have my flaws, and I know I can be abrasive, but it's just like, I try to leave myself open enough to be like, yeah, I'll come out for a drink or whatever, like on a weekend or that we're not doing markets, because that's the thing, right? We're talking about people that we will see in the same circuits. And in my case, I'm seeing a lot of people at these markets that I work or if I'm visiting. But like, we're starting to recognize familiar faces, and yeah, it's just like so hard to like really commit to like a date or something if we're like, yeah, let's get together one around this time for a drink and shoot the shit or do a paint and draw or whatever. It's like, but it's so damn hard. Like there's been so many failed attempts, and it's like, I mean, I kind of like, I know I went on a bit, like went on a tangent about it in the past with you and Rickman, but it's like, yeah, it's still like, like I'm still like just kind of hanging on my own and just focusing on my own shit, because like
Mm-hmm.
it's just hard to be out and like hang out with people. Like I have one friend that we do that we see pretty like I don't want to say frequently, but it's like quite often we actually will sit down, watch UFC fights or like just like go out for drinks or whatever. So that's been nice. But it's just like yeah, it's just like, yeah, if I want to experience something with other people, like that when it's not at a market or an art festival, like that is just almost nearly impossible in my case with my attempts. Like it's just very rare occasions I'll be able to like actually hang out and socialize with another artist and just like, whether if we're just like walking through the gardens and or art gallery, but it's super rare.
Frolicking through the tulips.
Yeah, but it's just like and it's like if this was 30 years ago, would that be more of a successful attempt? Like, who knows? Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to I don't want to put all the blame on social media and technology, but
Uh,
I do feel like, with all that accessibility and things to preoccupy your time, it's just like, yeah, I have a million things going on my
mhm.
device.
Right. Well, I mean, even I've tried the same thing too, like different groups of different people over the last 15 years of like trying to do the same thing. And it starts off well for like the first month, 2 months, and then it just drops off a cliff,
Yeah.
because you start getting busy or people forget or, it becomes work or it becomes less attractive to them. So, yeah, I get it. And
Yeah.
even like two, like I've kind of sequestered and secluded myself from a community because like when I became a father, it was during COVID and like no one was doing anything. So, but I've realized that's been doing me more harm than good because when you're constantly around people who are negative, it grates on you and it wears on you, and you become part of that. Because what do they say? Like it's like you're the sum of like the six people you hang out with the most, right? Something to that degree.
Yeah.
And when you're always around people who don't like what they do, and you already had those predispositions to your, to what I do, and you're just constantly hanging around, people who don't like what they do either, you become more negative and you become more frustrated and you become more antagonistic. And I don't like that for myself. Like in a lot of circumstances, I don't like who I am now versus who I was 15 years ago.
Mm.
You know, there are certain things I do enjoy now that I didn't have 15 years ago. But I just see people who are just sapped of happiness. I see people who just lack resilience.
Mm.
I see people who are downtrodden and defeated, and they just go, "All right, fuck it, whatever, I'm done. Whatever you want to do." And it's very heartbreaking and just so like just gut wrenching and just so soul beating. Where you're like, I need to be around people who legitimately love what they do, which is why I love taking classes
Mm.
because I don't have to worry about then like being like the teacher. I can just go and just be a schlub like everyone else and just draw or paint or whatever the fuck and get lost in my world. That's why I love being at the show earlier this month with Jan and Mike, because I'm with my tribe, with my people, and they get it too.
Yeah.
And it's like that positivity where, then we're talking to the other vendors that are there and looking at their work and just kind of like salivating over what they're doing, and you need that, like instead of just being around just this kind of just soul sucking just nebulous of negativity. Like I don't even know what other like
God damn.
alliteration or analogy to
Yeah.
use or metaphor or simile, whatever literary term you want to throw out there. But it's like, yeah, like when you're constantly around people that just don't like what they do, it wears on you.
Yeah.
Where like it's just you punch in and punch out. And it's like, look, like education provided me with a good living. I'm not gonna lie, but I know it's destroyed me. I
Yeah.
know it's like my desires and will has been eroded over time because like it's just you get home and there's always this, oh, I gotta do this, this like this thing, like this parent emails you get an email from your administrator, this student, is contacting you about a project, and oh, I didn't do this thing, I didn't do that thing. It's like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care about any of this shit. It's not even real, you know? Like it's elementary art people, get over it. It's like your kid's going to Harvard regardless. It's fine,
Yeah.
you know? But I just like having that kind of downtime. It's tough. And then, with young kids, it's even tougher where like by the time like they both go to sleep, I'm like, well, I have about 45 minutes before I clunk out myself.
Yeah.
Like I force myself to do something, and a lot of it's just that kind of just meandering bullshit lines where it's just like, let me get a brush pen and just kind of make some lines here. I mean, just to kind of doodle around, and you know, other times where it's like, all right, it's a little bit more focused, and I'm like, let me get a pencil and just kind of do some shading here and there. But when you don't have like a regular tribe or like regular positivity people around you to kind of boost you up, it's tough, you
Yeah.
know. So, and again, even like I was like alluding to before, it's like, yeah, this is what I have. Like, I don't have like people by me, or again, if I do, they're in the same situation where like they have young kids and there's things going on, and there's like the trains never connect. We just always miss each other. It gets annoying after a while. So it's like, all right, I'm just gonna shut myself off for a bit. But it's been more negative than positive.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. I mean, when I'm coming across my peers here, like I said, it's always on the market scene. So it's nice, but yeah, again, like just trying to, and I hear sometimes about these community gatherings when they like sit around and like, work on stuff together. Like I'll admit too, like sometimes I'm not flexible about my schedule too. Like sometimes things are happening where it's like I'm just caught up in my own stuff too. But there was one time me and Nicole we did like an arts festival, and there was another couple. I don't know, the one artist bought something from me, and then we stayed in touch since then, and then we ended up doing this festival together. And we actually, I mean, it's a long night. Like we had an hour drive ahead of us, but still, like at 10 o'clock that night, after breaking down everything and packing up our cars, we still made a little bit of time to like get together and like sit at the bar and have a drink and like actually converse and get to know each other. And it was such a good feeling. I was like, damn, I was like, and I was telling Nicole, I'm like, that, like, I want that. I want to be able to have those moments, if only just things were aligning more frequently, that would be so great. But it's like just to have those experiences, and like, that's what I'm finding myself missing out on, and trying to like, develop that with other, just other people that I talk to frequently.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just like people are just like setting their own schedules, their own lives, their own
Oh yeah,
routines.
oh
And
yeah,
yeah.
guilty as charged. Like I believe me, I know my life revolves around my two kids.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
it's,
mean, it has to.
oh
It's
yeah,
how it
yeah,
has
it has to, and then it's also
like my
whatever.
thing, like I find myself sometimes like creating excuses not to go out because like, oh, like I mean, it's kind of a legitimate excuse, like if I haven't seen my wife all day and to finally be able to like sit down. Cause like that's the one thing I do like hold like treasures like uh like when she comes home, I do try to like that's when I clock out because then that's from 5 or 5:30 to depending like when the food coma kicks in for me. Sometimes
Hmm.
it's like between 5 and 7 or 7:30. Like that's the only time I have spending time with my wife until we wake up for the gym and do our morning routines, and then it's like that's and repeat. That's just how it is. So like
Right.
sometimes I do find myself like kind of like making this excuse for myself, like, yeah, no, I'd like pass on this thing because you want to hang out with Nicole. like, like I'm
But
not saying that's bad or whatever, but it's just like I'm just addressing like that's what I tend to do sometimes.
I know, I think we all do that. We all make excuses like, oh, I don't want to do this thing because, I want to, because if I go to this event, I'm not drawing or painting anything, you know. But if I'm drawing or painting something, then I'm missing out on this on the social aspect of things. It's like, it's a double edged sword.
Yeah,
So it just kind of had to pick and choose your battles and what you feel is important. So,
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
it just goes with anything too. In life where you're arguing over policies or you're arguing over what kind of brush marker to use or what paper to use, or are you pro-life or pro-choice, or which Godzilla suit is really better. Like it doesn't really matter. Like like you have to invest your energy into something positive for you. And I feel like a lot of times we don't do that. Like we get so caught up with the negativity and like the small minutia of things where like you don't see the forest for the trees, whatever that phrase is. Like you're not seeing that. Like you're so caught up in like the chestnut on the ground. Like you're missing the whole forest. You're missing like the leaves changing colors. You're missing like the squirrels rustling through the branches. You're missing the deer frolicking through the fields because you want this fucking chestnut
Yeah,
that's right in front of you. Like you're not seeing the majesty of the mountain range in front of you. And that's what we're missing. Like we focus on like these small things that really are they going to matter to you in 5 hours, 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years? No, they're not. you know so but we all have to kind of just learn to grow from there, and we have to just sit down, plan what we do, and just realize that there are bigger things out there, and that there are things we don't have to worry about, and there are things that demand more of our time and attention.
for sure. Yeah,
So that's my nugget of wisdom there.
yeah.
So
Hey, I mean, there's great value in that for sure. But like, yeah, people listening or watching, take that with a grain of salt, you know. And
big green.
I think, yeah, man, like, I mean, I don't want to like rehash the discussion of it, but like, again, I think that's like, I think like the whole thing about, you know, energy management is like, yeah, you want to try to like make sure you're spending, whatever significant amount of energy you're going to spend, make sure it's like on the right thing. It's gonna
Right.
take
And it
the right path. It's like
right. and,
going
and
toward
some
good.
and sometimes it's hard to determine what the right thing is.
Right, of course, yes.
When you're in the heat of things, you don't know that's what you should be focusing on. That's why it's like you always got to take that step back and just kind of, okay, what is it? What is this? What's going on?
Let things register.
Right.
I think that's the
Because,
thing too. Like because things are so done fast, that sounded weird. But because like, we expect fast results now, right? Because things are just going
right.
faster. So I think that's part of the thing too with people's like we want fast results and we want them to be great. And it's like that's never how the world had operated. I mean, maybe
Yeah,
up until now with certain situations and certain
right.
things, but it's
Instant
like,
gratification.
yeah, yeah. Damn. Um, one last thing, just out of curiosity, before we put a ribbon on this thing, is because I know you're not as active. You got your thing going on Facebook, but when's the last time you peeked into the Plus Ultra Club? I'm just curious.
I think last week.
Mm. As like, I'm like, are people like the other members still posting anything? Like I texted
I
the two, I texted Katrina and Anita in a text, like letting them know, like, hey, this happened on Facebook, so I'm gonna not be in the group for a while. But I don't know
I
if they're still doing their October challenge or what. Like, I don't know if they're
uh,
actually pulling, going forward with it. And
it's funny. I actually thought about that today while going to work, with the group. And it's like, it's funny because um I've probably dropped more weight this month alone just by not running than I was when I was running over the summer.
yeah.
So like to give people a snapshot of things, in May I was 195,
Mhm.
which for me is heavy. And it came very close to my COVID weight. My COVID weight, I was up to like almost 210.
Mm.
I was a fucking fat slob. It was disgusting. And I what
You
started to
got over
like
towards yourself.
please.
And,
I looked like goddamn Jabba the Hutt for crying out loud. I mean,
so,
like I looked at pictures of myself from Flag Day. I dressed up as Uncle Sam for school, and I just looked just like I was swollen, not like swole, but swollen. Like I was stung by bees. I looked puffy and fat
inflamed,
and
maybe.
what?
Maybe you're inflamed.
Yeah, well, yeah, inflamed with fucking fat. That's what I was inflamed with. You know, I just looked chunky, and I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah,
And now I'm down to like 180.
nice.
And again, like not really many changes have happened. You know,
Sometimes slowing things down definitely helps. Like
it,
you probably needed more just physical rest to recover.
right? Because I was like basically kicking my ass at like running fucking 4 or 5 days a week at fucking 5 in the morning.
Yeah, there
You
is
know,
overtraining. That's definitely a thing.
yeah, overtraining it definitely is a thing. So, but even just like doing small things, where like going back to stress and little things, where like realizing like what triggers, certain things and what's stress. And I know I've now learned like I'm a stress eater and stress drinker, especially the last one, that's why I was looking very inflamed and looked very pudgy because I was just, like not realizing that like all like drinking like a liter of whiskey a week is not good, or 2 week, like drinking 2 liters is not good, because I had a habit coming out of just the stress of work of like, all right, we're home, the kids are in bed, let's have a nightcap for an elephant,
Mhm.
you know. So, and it's going like this is not healthy for me, for like not liking who I am and waking up always kind of hungover and blah 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 and all those other things that were going on. It's like I was years ago, I was very strict with like Monday, like weekdays was like no alcohol at all, not a beer, nothing. Fridays and Saturdays a little different. You can go out. Sundays were like a toss up. Like back when I pretended to watch football and gave a shit about football, which I don't, but it was just something to do. But even like now, I'm like, as you get older, I'm like, I don't like the feeling of like having like the night sweats and just feeling like crap the next day, especially when you have like two young kids. They don't give a shit how you feel. They're
Yeah.
like, all right, we're ready to go, Dad, and you got to be ready to go too.
Yeah.
So you start thinking like differently, and there's also too like how things hit you differently. So I'm like, oh, like this, even like tonight, we're like, oh, like this is a lot less than I would usually do, and it's hitting a lot stronger and a lot different because I'm not used to it,
Mm-hmm.
which is to me a good feeling. I'm like, okay, I, I like this, So it's like that, and just eating a little bit better, not snacking all the time, drinking a lot more water, which I used to be in a really good habit of drinking a lot of water. I got out of it. Now I'm like back to it, making sure I drink like my 100 ounces a day or whatever the fuck I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
But it's just like the little things, like hitting your 10,000 steps a day, parking further away so you get more steps in. Um, just even like at home, like I'm just like kind of just walking around the house back and forth. So I'm not stationary, I'm not sitting around.
Right.
Just like the little things add up after a while. And just the other thing too is like not being stressed about work, because I realized I was triggering a lot of things. I was like, I'm overeating and over drinking because of work, because I'm stressed about work. I'm stressed about this, that, and everything else. And I'm like, you know what? It's paycheck's fine. Like I'm stressed about like not finishing my Man Thing drawing from last year, or like, like, or other things too. Like there's, of course, there's other things that are like that are stressors, but it's like, as long as I take it one day at a time, I'll be fine.
Mm.
I'll make it through the other side. I just have to be careful about how you handle things. So, whether it's going for a walk or even like just doing some like mindless doodling or listening to music, whatever, you have to do things for yourself. Like you have to pay yourself first, be good to yourself, and then that in turn ends up manifesting itself tenfold to other people, which then comes back to you 100-fold.
Mm.
So it's like you gotta start. You gotta clean your own house first, clean your shit up, help other people clean their house, and then it all comes back to you in a positive way.
Right.
But you have to put those vibes out there. You got to do whatever you need to do, but do it in a good way. So that's what I hope people take away from all this. Like you have to maintain, take care of yourself, then go out and help others.
Yeah.
And that always comes back to you. Put positive things out there in the universe. If you're an artist, like plan what you want to do, like be specific about things. If you want to be an artist, that's wonderful. What do you want to do? Do you want to draw? Do you want to paint? If you want to draw and paint, what are you drawing and painting? Are you doing botanical work? Are you doing anatomical drawings? In comic books, fine art, abstract, gallery work, illustrations for magazines, rock posters, like t-shirt designs. Do you want to be a toy illustrator? Do you want to do packaging design? Do you want to do like all those things, and then just be nice to people. Like don't be a dick. Like if you're at a show, like don't be an asshole. Like if someone asks your advice, give the best advice you can. It may not be good advice, but just give them your experience.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Amen.
like we're all in this together. Like we all are. Like we all need to help each other out. We all need to just share the knowledge and experience that we have. Because even like our experiences at shows are different. Like we've been at the same shows, and you've done well, and I've done shitty, and I've done well, and you've done shitty.
Mm-hmm.
Or we've both done well, we've both done shitty. Like it's whatever. But like we need to, be open to having nuanced conversations with each other, to not just shit on one another's opinions on things. unless you like Ang Lee's Hulk. That's terrible. Then you have horrible taste in things. That's the point, though. But or if you're using bad watercolor paper, gotta use good watercolor paper. That's a whole other story, though.
Amen. Can't agree more. Man, it's crazy to think that like knowing it's like we've known each other for well over 10 years now. It's pretty wild.
It is.
But I will say, man, you are certainly, one of my favorite guests to have on a podcast. I consider you a good friend. I look up to you. I try to take in whatever wise words you have to share. And yeah, man, it's always a pleasure having you on here, no matter what route we go down. Because when Nick is on the show, it gets spicy.
Oh, it gets real spicy. Oh yeah, too hot to handle and too cold to hold.
Part of me, because I really did scrap that recording, but there were some gems in there that part of me wishes I saved. Like I should have. I should have. No, yeah. I mean, they're in here too for now.
Yeah, right.
My pipe, no, but no, right. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're in the memory bank too. But just like me, like I try to like share gems to the public too, and I know that there were a lot of good gems in that conversation. But yeah, we were definitely fucking edgy as fuck on there.
Oh yeah, we definitely got a little out there.
I wasn't even like inebriated or like I don't even think I smoked that time. Like I was like as sober as could be, and
we were just on fire is what it was. It was just something in the water that day where it was just like we just need to be as controversial as fuck. That's what it was. It's like, you know what? It's like I want to be canceled today, so let me just say like the dumbest shit possible and just go forward with it. That's what it was.
Yeah, I don't think Facebook's gonna deactivate my account anytime.
No. I'm not gonna have the men in black suits, knock on my door and mind fuck me. No, that's not gonna happen.
No, man. But yeah, dude, it's always a pleasure. I genuinely get excited when you give me like when you put up the bat signal, like, hey, we're gonna be talking pretty soon. I'm like, all right.
I give it the Iggy. I'm like, all right, G, you better be ready to go.
No, man, I love it. And I mean, you know very well that like, yeah, you say the word and I'll just make sure there's an opening that we can fit in our schedule. But yeah, before I wrap this up, I do want to share some words from Steven Pressfield's The War of Art.
A great book, by the way.
Yeah, I'm considering rereading it.
Yeah.
Dude, but it's and I think this kind of applies to what we were talking about earlier, about just like creating our work. And it says we must do our work for its own sake, not for fortune or attention or applause. Yeah,
so true.
Yeah. So with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed all the discussions we had, and I hope there's something there that resonates with you and something you can apply with your life, your practice, your discipline, whatever it is that you're doing. And with that, stay safe, stay healthy, stay driven, and we shall catch you all on the next one. Peace out.